What's up, magical people? Welcome back to Your Most Magical Life. I'm Mia Magic. Today we're talking about the winter solstice, which is actually coming right before the Capricorn new moon. So I'm going to make another video about that, but there's a lot of energy that ties into both. And so today what I want to share with you is ways you can celebrate the solstice, different little tidbits about history and how many ancient traditions and civilizations practiced and celebrated and honored this holy day. This was actually our first real original holiday or holy day, where we get that word. And the original holy days were the cross quarter days. So the two solstices, summer and winter solstice, the longest and shortest day of the year, and the equinoxes, where the days and nights are equal in length. So those were our original holidays. Then we would celebrate the days in between as well. So in the Celtic tradition, those are Samhain or Halloween, All Hallows Eve, between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice, then Imbolc between winter solstice and spring equinox, then Beltane between spring equinox and summer solstice, and then a very lesser known of the cross-quarter holidays, Lunasa. There's a lot of different ways to pronounce it. It's like a Welsh word. You go there and you like read these words, and I mean, I'm pretty good with languages and I have a great ear, and I can't pronounce a single one of those words. So it's named for the ancient god Luch, and there's a beautiful summer holiday between summer solstice and autumn equinox that is celebrated in many cultures. The reason why these solstices are so important is because these are cosmological alignments. This is not just like, oh, today we're celebrating Valentine's Day and we're going to honor love and buy candy and look at each other and it's going to be cute and sweet. This is what's happening in our solar system. This is relating to our solar star, the sun, this beautiful luminary being that supports all life on our planet. And so before holidays became about capitalism or about money or about guilt or shame or how much you should pay the church in order to be absolved from your sins, this holy day was about the light returning. So because this is the longest night of the year, on December 20th, that morning of the 21st, which the solstice does change. People think that it's always the same. It's not. It can be on the 19th. It can be on the 22nd. It's whatever the longest night is. And then that sun returning at a certain point. It's about the rotation of the earth. That day is the reason why Christians celebrate Christmas as the birth of the sun. It's the birth of the sun. It's the sun returning. So this is very important to recognize because Christmas was a holiday that was created in order to shift our relationship with these natural cycles that originally were how we marked the passage of time and celebration and the energy that was present in our communities, in our tribes. And when you really think about it, winter time is meant to be very internal. It's not about big New Year's resolutions and, oh, I'm going to do this. And it's like, no, this is the slowest, most internal, most reflective, coldest, darkest time of the year. So it's really not in alignment to work super hard on your personal New Year's resolutions when this is the time where there was the least amount of food, there was the least amount of light. It would be hard. It would, before grocery stores, it was hard to survive the winter. Children or the elderly would die because it was too cold or because there wasn't enough food. It's very important to just recognize how different we have turned our relationship to winter. Now it's about so many different things, buying gifts, stuffing ourselves with sugar and alcohol, when that would never have happened because you wouldn't have had a surplus during that time. You would have had to really ration and really take care of your resources during that time. This is why, during that harvest season, that Samhain, pumpkins, gourds, squashes, those foods would last you throughout the winter. So those were why they're very sacred during that pre-winter autumn harvest time, is because those foods could be the difference between your survival or not. So that's really a beautiful way to honor the appreciation and the gratitude that we're meant to have, is really to just recognize that, that surplus of food that we have around Thanksgiving, that would have been like the last time you would have that. And then you would have to be really mindful as the cold and the winter months would ensue. So some great things to do prior to the solstice coming are to do a reflection of your year. Now, some of you may have seen my Gemini full moon video. I suggested this here as well. it really is still a totally appropriate thing to do. Reflect on your months. Reflect month by month on the year. See how things went for you. What did you learn? Because right now, this darkest time up until the 21st, this is where we get to see our shadows and our darkness. And if you're like me and you're already home with your family, you definitely have an opportunity to see really what shadows, one, you may have inherited, two, you may still be choosing to act out, even though it feels like an unconscious choice. You're still allowing yourself to behave in a way that you maybe learned not to behave from your parents, but you're just not able to transcend or overcome it quite yet. That's certainly where I am. Oh boy, it's just so delightful. This is an absolutely profound opportunity for us to look at how darkness shows up in our lives in any way. This winter time it's going to still be cold. It's not like the nights are going to all of a sudden be like back to summertime. That's not what's going on. But what's happening is that this darkest, longest night on the night of December 20th is basically a reflection for you of what is this dark night in me? What is the deepest darkness, the greatest shadow that's still here present within me? And now you don't have to do the whole look back on your year thing. It can just be a looking within. Let me look back on my life. Let me look back on the ways that I've been behaving. That's certainly what's up for me right now. So you get to just look at how you're responding to your reality, how you're responding to the world around you, how you're relating to and interacting with, whether it's people or situations or your business or whatever it is, and see where there is darkness, see where you are yearning for the light to return, and see how you can both embody the sun itself and its brightness and it returning as this healing energy while simultaneously holding the awareness for where you've been in the darkness or where you've been manifesting that dark night in yourself. We all always have both. There's never going to be like a full luminous, okay, everything is love and light. There's no darkness whatsoever. That's not realistic. We are human beings. We have to have compassion for ourselves. And there is a beautiful opportunity, again, as always, in everything that we do, to just strive for being more like the sun. It's okay for it to be dark. It is winter. We're January and February, sometimes even March in some places, like it's gonna still be cold. It's gonna be snowy. The storms are gonna get worse. This is actually really just the beginning. Winter solstice really marks the beginning of winter. So reflecting on the winter within as we start rising into winter and we begin to face these winter months, that will support you so that then when really like the new year begins, the astrological new year, the Chinese new year, many calendars run where spring returning, right? Life being reborn, that's actually the beginning of the year. That's when our astrological year begins again. That's when like that death portal of winter, right? The time when all of the leaves have fallen and everything is in its sort of dormant, sleeping hibernation state. Spring is then when life begins to reemerge. So we can really see that more as the new year. And that's definitely like more when I feel like the year begins. And you get to just operate on the calendar and the cosmos and everything the way that you want to do. But this is just an invitation to sort of see how our modern world has really shifted us away from the natural circadian rhythm of the planet and of our solar system. So some really beautiful ways that you can celebrate Yule and the solstice. One, I love to wake up with the sun. It's very easy to do right now. It's only around 7 o'clock. When you look at, where the sun rolls through the horizon, depending on where you are. I'm in Northern California at the moment. And, like high noon, the sun's still like over there, just kind of cresting. And we've got plenty of daylight over here, but in some places like Alaska and Iceland, there's not much, if any at all. So it's really a beautiful opportunity to honor that last long night and wake with the sun, rise with the sun. Envision yourself being reborn, returning to the light. There's so many amazing witchy things you can do, building a Yule log, decorating your Christmas tree. or your Yule tree. That's really where we get Christmas trees, is from Yule logs. And it's beautiful to add candles and ribbons. And the reason why we use those red balls for Christmas is because it used to be apples that would decorate your tree. You didn't have like much else going on. So you would make strings and garlands of, seed pods like acorns and all of those beautiful the little twirly ones that fall off of like the trees in the UK. I don't remember what they're called, but they're super beautiful. They look like little airplanes. They're adorable. And all of the elements of nature would be what we would decorate our Christmas trees with, or our Yule logs with. So that's a really great activity to engage in. You can use dried fruits, you can use candles, you can create a really beautiful little setup and an altar for it somewhere central in your home if you want to do that. So beautiful. Make it your own. Use pine cones, use clippings. If you go to a Christmas tree lot, they always have clippings that they'll give to you. Any place that makes wreaths or that has trees during this Yuletide season, really great way to just get something simple. You can always, of course, go to the forest. Like I found some cut down trees, some beautiful spruce. They smelled really good. And so I just gathered some clippings that were from trees that had already been felled. That felt really good. I'm not cutting anything alive from nature. I highly recommend doing that. Singing carols is not just about Christmas. This was about really bringing light and liveliness to our homes, to others during this time when it was cold, and bringing a little bit of that jubilant, sunny energy into those dark nights. So singing anything that makes you feel good is definitely a great way to honor the solstice. So some of the amazing things that I recommend doing right now are really about preparing yourself for winter. So there's the spiritual element of seeing where your darkness is and how can you help yourself return to the light. And then there's all kinds of crafts. One of these beautiful crafts that I'm going to do is peeling oranges. You can peel little designs into them, and then they release their essential oil and their beautiful, zesty, fresh, citrusy scent. And then you can make designs even further if you want, like get a little more artistic. Like I'm not that artistic, so mine are probably gonna be really simple, but I just saw them on Pinterest and I was like, this is so cute. So you get whole cloves and whole oranges, and you can peel the little designs into your oranges, like shave little parts out of them. Make a pattern, make a circle, whatever you want. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. And then you can like draw another circle or make a little diamond or whatever it is with the cloves inside the peel of the orange, and leave those in your house, and it smells really beautiful and really nice. So that's something I'm going to do today, and I'm very excited about that. Anything to do, even though it sounds like pickling, but anything to do with supporting yourself through the winter. So making jam, making pickles, preserving anything, smoking meats, whatever it is, you can really get into that sort of energy of our ancestral history and be able to align a little bit more with the earth, instead of like, oh, I'm going to rely on just rolling over to the grocery store. It's like, wow, I have these last apples, or I have these last winter radishes or carrots or whatever it is, and you can preserve them. I don't know why I personally feel really excited about pickles right now, but there's just something about aligning with the old ways, like our ancient ways in the modern day, that really feels good. And you can put your intentions into these things. And then in that moment, when you're there in winter and you don't have to go to the store, you get to pull out something from your cupboard that you created for yourself for exactly that moment. There's a lot of really beautiful, sweet magic in that. And for me, that's just like pickles right now. I'm just super excited about making dilly beans and all kinds of little things that I can be snacking on throughout the winter. Making wreaths is another great way to honor this season and this time. Again, you can get tree clippings from all different kinds of places and add, pomegranates dry really beautifully. You actually don't need to do anything to a pomegranate. It'll just dry. And so as long as you don't like puncture it. So pomegranates make great decoration. The reason why the colors of Christmas are what they are is because those colors used to be the only color that would be present with evergreen trees, and then the red berries or the winter fruits like the apples that would come, you weren't seeing much other color. And the reason why these colors are sacred during that time as well is because that green is the life, right? Means the same thing all over the world because it is the plants all over the world. And so green is the symbol of life and vitality. And then red is the blood. It is the rivers within us, and it's the earth and the water. And the red represents the womb. And the womb is that darkness. And so we all return to the womb. We all come from the womb. Bears return into the womb of the earth to hibernate. And we would have to live in caves during this time. You couldn't just be out in a snowy place. You would die of exposure. So we would return to the caves or the wombs of the earth. And that blood is what's keeping us alive, the fire, the warmth, right? All of this energy is why red is associated with the Yuletide season. And those two colors were really the ancient colors of life and the goddess. There's many, many traditions that those were the colors. It was like green of life, chlorophyll, plants, blood of life, and then our blood, the chlorophyll inside of us, what keeps us moving and going and pumping. So it was actually red and green were about our relationship to the natural world and how tied together we were and keeping that heat and that warmth and that fire alive inside of us and maintaining warmth throughout that winter season so that we would make it through. Really, crafting in any way is a great thing to do during this time because it's something you can stay warm doing, cuddle up by the fire, read a book, you know, and make something, whether you make a scarf. I didn't make this. I don't know how to make things like this, but you know, whether you do and you know how to knit or sew and you want to make something beautiful, you know, people always really appreciate those kinds of gifts. One thing I really want to speak to, I know that everyone's probably already bought all of their Christmas presents, but I would just really like to encourage all of you to consider where your gifts are coming from, because it's really horrible for the environment and for the planet and ultimately for our souls and ourselves and each other when all we're doing is buying stuff from Amazon and it's not handmade and it all comes from factories in China or child slave labor. You know, it's just not good. And so one thing that I always really appreciate is when people buy me something that, or get me something that either they've made or that really means a lot to me or that comes from nature or that, you know, someone handmade, even, you know, buying things from Etsy. I have a deep relationship with Mother Earth and our agreement is that I only buy new things. I pretty much only buy used things, but if I buy a new thing, it has to be handmade by some kind of small business owner or local artisan or craftsperson, wherever that is. So I bought some new things when I was in Europe, but they were all handmade by people that I spoke to. I bought a beautiful bowl and the woman was like, "Oh, my daughter made this." I bought this gorgeous brass mushroom lamp and the guy made it himself. You know, so there's something to be said about the quality that has been lost and what we're doing. This is not in alignment. This is part of our darkness. This is a massive shadow in our modern world. The way that we think that it's okay to just order something immediately and boxes and deliveries and all of this stuff all the time. I'm not here to shame anybody about it, but it is very much something that we need to bring more awareness to. You know, that is the opposite of the holiday spirit, where this energy of this holiday has come from. It's just really something to think about. And it's a result of the church, because one of the major issues that the church has is stealing from people. And so they would go in and, you know, you would be required to pay your tithes and the tithings would be basically unless you pay your tithes, you're going to go to hell. If you want to get your crazy old grandmother who died last year out of hell, you have to pay for that. And so the church was manipulating people out of money, and that system is what our modern society has been built upon. And so that's a huge reason why we have gotten so far away from being connected to nature during this time, being aware of the darkness, even the Christmas lights. This time of year is the darkest. We wouldn't have had any light. You know, you would have had a candle that you needed to save and savor for all the nights throughout that winter time, you know, a candle made from fat, from tallow, or if you were lucky enough to get beeswax. So it's really important to just recognize this during this time. And this is something that I really care a lot about. And I know that any one of you who's watching this, you care a lot about it too. But it's just something to note, especially because those things might be a little bit more expensive. Like today I went to the farmer's market and it's way more expensive to buy things from the farmer's market than it is to buy things from my local grocery store. But when I give my money to the person standing in front of me who grew those cabbages or these lentils or these dill and cilantro and squash plants, I know from the gratitude, oh, thank you so much. I know that my money is going to a place that is more like where I would want it to than not. And so it is always worth supporting local small businesses and craftspeople. It's always worth it. And so if you're going to buy, toys for your kids or things for yourself or new decor for your home or Christmas ornaments, whatever it is, it's so important to be buying handmade and buying local and from small businesses, women-owned businesses, BIPOC-owned businesses, if you possibly can. And I know that I will certainly be having a beautiful solstice, and I wish so many blessings for you and yours as well during this holiday season. If you can get your drum out and spend some time with anyone else and just celebrate the light returning, that is all you need to do. That's all the ritual you need. You don't need to be making too many New Year's resolutions. You don't need to be like getting all up in arms about what you're supposed to do. This is just a time to take a rest. The earth is resting. You're allowed to rest. So if you feel like celebrating the light returning, let yourself do that. And if you don't, honor that as well. Make sure you catch my Capricorn new moon video because it's going to be a big one. And that's a really important piece of what we're talking about here with this winter energy and Capricorn season being the mountain goat that rises up these hills and these peaks, taking baby steps. Winter is not a time for like big, massive leaps. It's time for measured, calculated, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is the next little step that I'm taking in order to achieve what I desire. So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I am Mia Magic, and as always, it is my eternal honor and greatest pleasure to continue welcoming you to your most magical life.